this is Darren from Danger by Degrees, and this is part 5 of our second case study as it relates to Kyoto Animation and the terrible, terrible crime that happened. The fire that was over a year ago that claimed 36 lives, most of them being Kyoto Animation studio personnel. Join me in this video as we talk about violence as it's directed against media outlets, entertainers, and media personalities. Why does violence happen in the workplace? Violence can happen both from coworkers onto other coworkers. It can happen from a customer onto a manager. It could happen from somebody off-site who comes into the workplace to do harm. This could be relationship-related violence. So say a husband or a wife is going after their mate who happens to be at the job and they carry out some kind of an act of violence while their significant other is there. Violence can happen between two coworkers who are having personal grievances and finally, rather than talk it out or some other form of solution, violence ends up resulting. So a fistfight, say. Violence can also happen in the form of, say, a terrorist attack. Violence can happen in the form of somebody who has a grievance against that company. So violence comes from everything from internal, so that's internal sources such as personal issues between coworkers, say a situation between a supervisor and a worker. A worker could just be having certain issues that they're at their wit's end and they take out what they're going through on their fellow coworkers. Outside, you could see robberies. You could see violence in the form of, well, as I said, crime. You can also see political reasons because, say, a company is associated with a certain type of situation and protesters or people take offense to that and carry out an act against the said company. Abortion clinics are a perfect example of an outside force attacking into the company. With respect to violence in the media and violence against media and public figures, of course we're talking about Kyoto Animation and Mr. X, who poured gasoline at the front entrance of the company, started the fire, and unfortunately 36 people passed. But there's other instances, and this could be seen, for instance, in France. In January of 2015, on January the 7th, two Muslim men who acted or carried out an act of terror based on political reasons because this very satirical-based Charlie Hebdo newspaper had published graphics or, should we say, material that incensed many Muslims. And the end result was that 12 people were unfortunately killed when they attacked the newspaper. Another incident is, for instance, a grievance collector that we talked about like last episode ended up attacking a newspaper in Connecticut and again killed close to a dozen members or a dozen workers at that newspaper. There are stalkers who have killed media personalities. There's been all sorts of different people, and probably the most famous of this was the man who killed John Lennon. And again, when you look at all of these things, why is there so much, say, violence directed at public figures or against public institutions or entertainment facilities? Well, it comes down to the fact that many of these places are just by the name, public. They are open. They invite themselves to be perused by the public. They interact with the public either through their media or through their, say, webmail, their websites, their product, social media. And generally speaking, the more public you are, the more likely you might end up doing something that does cause offenses against, say, Muslims if you're Charlie Hebdo. We've talked so far about some of the general reasons why violence happens inside your workplace, outside your workplace, from the public into your workplace, from you out to the public, within your workplace, between workers and your coworkers. We've also talked about how public-related or public-themed entertainers, media personalities, media outlets, or publishing companies, such as, in this case, being Kyoto Animation, can be the targets of violence from people who either project, say in the case of Mr. X, he projected his own delusional beliefs onto the company and that's what caused him to do what he did. Or you could end up having, say, a political action whereby, for instance, the Charlie Hebdo, where two Muslim brothers had gotten, incensed at Charlie Hebdo's promotion or production of material against what they saw as their religious beliefs. So how do media outlets, media entertainers, media personalities, how do people who are public figures react or prevent these actions from happening? Well, a lot of the time, this could be, first, situational awareness. If you are aware that there is a threat been made, you're aware that there are events that could cause you harm, your employees harm, or generally a threat that has been made, developing a situational awareness of your surroundings is the first step to kind of develop a prevention. It's no guarantee that it'll stop what's happening from happening, but at least if you're aware of what's going on, it works a lot better at helping prevent things. So this can end up helping you plan your, say, walking to and from work, your public presentations, your, say, if your company is going to have a public outing, it helps you plan and develop plans accordingly. So the more knowledge that you have of what potential threats are out there, the better that you can plan to, well, respond to them. Another level of, shall we say, prevention is to develop a level of security. So while, say, you're walking from your car to your workplace, or say when you're a star going and shaking hands with your fans, having security around you and having a certain level of distance between you and the people that you're interacting with at least gives you some ground by which you can either defend yourself or have an escape route in play. So with respect to the security, having the security act as your eyes and ears also allows you to kind of be able to do your job as an entertainer or a public speaker or what have you. Or say, if you're a media company, having a security zone around you at least has an early warning set up so that if, say, somebody who you know has made threats, the police can be called or security can, shall we say, keep an eye on them and stop them from being potentially a threat to your employees or yourselves. So you have situational awareness, you have security set up. In the case of Kyoto Animation, the design of your workplace as well is also got to be taken into account, because if, say, you have a cluttered and a, shall we say, blocked working area where it's hard enough to get around between offices and in between walkways, when all of a sudden you have an incident where somebody's starting to, say, either throw Molotov cocktail or spraying a machine gun or bullets are flying, and all of a sudden you have everybody running towards exits, the design of your workplace also can contribute to additional fatalities, because you end up having a whole bunch of people in a stampede and people are crawling over each other. You not only have people, say, being hit with bullets, but then you start having people literally being crushed by the weight of their fellow coworkers. So again, you got to think about the design of your company, of your workplaces. So for instance, if in going back to Kyoto Animation, because of the design of the way that the studio was set up, there really wasn't any fire protection in place. And again, the local laws didn't require it. But what ended up happening is, because there was also probably ventilation issues, and there was also probably, again, with the space issues regarding how people could get in and out of the area once the fire started, there really wasn't any proper escape routes that were available, because the fire had hit so fast and so quickly that it effectively cut off anybody's escape. The only way was either up and onto the roof or out onto whatever balconies that they could jump. And unfortunately, again, you got to think of the design so that you have good lighting, you have ways to, shall we say, isolate or prevent, say, fires from escaping from one floor to the next, ventilation to help vent out excess fumes so that you buy who is ever in the building a chance to get that extra couple seconds, those extra couple minutes to survive. So again, it's a security sense, it's the personal awareness of the people involved, it is the setup and the site of your company that includes security barriers, having security systems in place, having the design of your company so that if there's an emergency, people are able to get in, get out. This is Darren. This is Danger by Degrees. I hope that you like this video. This is part 5 of probably a 7-part series. Our next video is going to be on a good note. We're going to be talking about why Kyoto Animation has survived from this horrific events and what makes Kyoto Animation so special, and how to recover from such an horrific act.